Today, we're talking about Pelican center Yves Missi and if the Chicago Bulls should have some interest in trading for him this season. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to slam dunk on that subscribe button, just like Modest Mazelis slam dunks in games. And so in exchange for slamming on that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Chicago Bulls. And so make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Chicago Bulls Insider family as we talk nothing but Chicago Bulls basketball. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it as we are talking about if the Chicago Bulls should have some interest in trading for Yves Missi. And so if you've not got a chance to see this, this is on the DallasHoopsJournal.com website. This is an article written by Grant Afsef. And so within this article, he's talking about several different NBA teams and what he's hearing around those teams heading into the NBA trade deadline. And so he mentions the Pelicans, and he also mentions the Bulls within the Pelicans passage. And so this is what he has to say in the article. And so it says that there are two Pelicans trade candidates to watch, including Yves Missi and Jordan Hawkins. Sources tell DallasHoopsJournal.com. Missi went from averaging 26.8 minutes per game as a rookie to 18.2 per game in his sophomore campaign. Meanwhile, Hawkins has only played 14.2 minutes per game after averaging 23.6 last season. Both players lack a significant trajectory in New Orleans. Sources indicate to DallasHoopsJournal.com that the Indiana Pacers and Chicago Bulls are two teams to monitor for Missi. However, there is believed to be more traction for the Pacers at this time, with Benedict Mathurin as a player who would be involved in such a trade. So before we jump into if it fits for the Chicago Bulls and how a possible trade would look, I will say that Brett Siegel said on his podcast that the Pelicans could perhaps have some interest in moving Yves Missi. He does mention the Indiana Pacers and Benedict Mathurin. And so these are two sources that are talking about the Pelicans. And so again, with all these things that we talk about, it is rumors. And so you have to take it with a grain of salt. But, you know, this is something where we have two sources talking about this. And so now talking about just the fit with the Chicago Bulls. And then next, we'll be talking about what it would possibly look like to make a move for Yves Missi. And so with the fit, I think that this is something the Chicago Bulls certainly would want to do. I think that Yves Missi really checks a lot of boxes here. And I'm not saying that Yves Missi would be the starting center, you know, for now and the future for the Chicago Bulls, but I do think that he would be a significant piece for the Chicago Bulls and would really help this front court get things moving in the right direction. And so the first thing that Yves Missi does is he gives you rim protection. And I think that that is huge for the Chicago Bulls. I think that we have clearly saw this season that, you know, this team gets attacked on the interior in the paint. And so you need somebody that is going to block the shots and also to just scare off, you know, opposing offenses from even going in there. And so Yves Missi, he has that ability to get to the rim and block the shots and also to just use that athleticism. And so just looking at him sliding over and getting a huge block, like that is what you want when you're talking about rim protection. And so that is the first thing that he would provide the Chicago Bulls, and really why it would make sense is the rim protection. Next, he is going to be the mobile type of big that you need defensively as well. And I think that that is very important when you're talking about guarding the pick and roll, because he can step out there, he can show, and he has the speed and the lateral quickness to get back to his man. And I also think that Yves Missi, with his ability to move his feet and the speed that he has as a big, he can also guard players who are looking to shoot the three ball. And so, you know, that is something that is common in the NBA. You have a lot of centers that want to step out and shoot the three and, you know, just get outside the paint. And so I think that Yves Missi has the lateral quickness to stay with them. And so that's huge because you need that versatility in your front court. And next with Yves Missi, what I love about him is that he is a lob threat, and that fits perfectly with what you have with the guard play in Josh Giddey, Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu, Trey Jones, you name it. You know, even, you know, some of our forwards in Modest Mazelis and also to Kevin Huerter, like they will find you if you get into the dunker spot and you're available for those lobs. And so he would be perfect for the type of game that the Chicago Bulls want to run, which is getting out in space and pace and getting into the fast break game. And so that's something that you would get with Yves Missi. In fact, just looking at what he could do on both ends of the floor, here's an example: getting the block shot, getting the basketball, finding his guard, and then look at the ability to run down the floor. I like this here, even though he's not giving up on the play after the shot is up, and then finishing with an emphatic dunk. Like, that is what you want right there from your center. And so he checks the box right there for you. And so next, with Yves Missi, I think another thing that really would make a lot of sense for the Chicago Bulls as far as trading for him is that you get him on a rookie scale type of contract. And so this is his second season in. He's scheduled to make about $3 million and some change this season and next season. His last season is going to be the club option at $5 million, and he's also going to run into restricted free agency. And so the team has some control here if you're going to trade for Yves Missi. And so those are the reasons why I think it makes sense for the Chicago Bulls to trade for him. And then next, as far as just before we go into what it would look like, I'll say this. When it comes to getting Yves Missi, this would give the Bulls a chance to really pivot off of Vooch. I think that has to happen at this point in time. He's had some good games, but he's also having some bad games as well. And so you're starting to see the decline. You don't get it from him defensively, even though we've gotten it from him the last two games. I've talked about that on the post game and everything else, but you're going to have to move off of Vooch. And then with Zach Collins, look, Zach Collins, I like what he could possibly bring to this team, actually knowing what he brings to this team. But the problem is that now he's running into the injuries, and that's something that Zach Collins has really dealt with throughout his career. And I think that now you're seeing how these injuries, could impact you in the front court and everything else. And so the Bulls are certainly going to have to make a decision here. Not sure if they're going to trade him or let him walk in free agency. They could bring him back, but you have to think about the injury history. And so, again, going back to Yves Missi, he would give you a great pivot point. Still think you're going to have to draft, I think, a little bit more a versatile center on the offensive end, because Yves Missi, he does not shoot the three ball well. And so looking at the numbers, you can see that Yves Missi is very solid, especially when it came down to his rookie season. And this goes into the first point in that article. You can see that essentially his role is diminished in this season because they brought in, Queen, they drafted him. And so they're using him in the front court, and that's kind of taken away. They have Kevon Looney over there as well. And Yves Missi, again, he has a lot of potential, but he does need to play. And so 9.1 points in year one, 8.2 rebounds his first year, 62.3% is his free throw percentage. And so he struggles there. He's only shooting 59.2% this season. And then the three ball, he does not shoot the three pointer. And so that's why I'm saying you would still need to get a center that is going to help you as far as stretching the floor, in the way that they play in this space and pace kind of offense here with the Chicago Bulls. And so I think he goes well with what you're looking for with Jalen Smith. And so I think that could be a nice little temporary fix, and it's also going to start to push your front court in the right direction here. But I think that ultimately what it comes down to get Yves Missi, you're probably going to have to come off, I think, at least that protected Portland first round pick. I think that they're certainly going to be interested in that. I'm not interested in giving up a ton of draft capital for Yves Missi, but let me be clear. He is certainly a player that I would like to have on the Chicago Bulls. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments here, what are you thinking? Would you make the trade for Yves Missi? Would you throw in something other than just the protected first round pick to get Yves Missi? I'm not sure that the Bulls necessarily have some pieces that they would want, because I'm not sure really what the direction is with the Pelicans, because they have a lot of different things going on there, with the guards and stuff like that. Then again, you have, Kevon Looney, who's a bit more of a veteran. I know you have, Derek Queen that you just drafted. And so they also have Zion too. And so, I think that the Pelicans are very much trying to figure some things out with what they're doing. And so I'm not sure that they would be interested in some of the expiring contracts that the Bulls have. They might, and then maybe it turns into like a 3 or 14 type of trade. I think that that is another possibility in which he is moved. But anyway, AK and this front office, they have some options. And so if Yves Missi is available, I'm hoping that AK is picking up the phone and trying to figure out a way to get somebody into your front court and get this team moving in another direction. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. And as we always say, look, go Bulls, and I will see you on the next one. All right, peace.